your windows, all of them. What's up, my man? Hey, you got a valid driver's license, proof of insurance, all that good stuff? Hey, you blew that red light.
The light was yellow and turned red when I went out there.
It was red when you blew it.
It was yellow.
Okay. Well, I saw it. It was red. So.
I saw it too.
All right. Well, you got a proof of insurance?
Yeah.
Just hang tight. You got a.
Yeah, I'm not with anyone.
You got anything crazy in the car?
Yeah.
What you got?
A gun.
You got a gun? You do? All right. Where's that? It's on you? Okay. As long as you're cool. And...
Oh, I'm chill. I ain't finna lie to you.
No, man. I appreciate your honesty.
Oh, I ain't got time to lie.
That's awesome. So you have concealed carry and all that good stuff? No, you don't. All right, you're not a convicted felon, right? Nothing.
I do everything, whatever.
Okay.
Else you're supposed to do,
All right.
get it on there.
So what we're gonna do is, just for my safety, your safety, I'm gonna have you step out. All right, fair enough. And we're just gonna remove the pistol from you.
It's fine, keep me through.
I appreciate you, man, being very
Oh,
honest.
yeah, all right.
You okay? Hey. Put the gun down. Put it down. You okay? You got shot in the leg.
Rescue 1068.
HQ 2162. You rescued 1068. 1020.
Walking.
Go ahead. That was Mike with a gunshot to his leg. Tourniquet. I got it. You okay? Hey, Mindy, do me a favor. Just get Wiper, you good?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get this thing off.
Hang in there, brother. Rescue's coming. Rescue's coming. There you go.
Welcome back, everybody. As many of you guys know, I'm a police instructor and trainer. I train and instruct military and law enforcement all over the country on various law enforcement disciplines to include constitutional law, case law, patrol tactics, investigations, use of force, etc. And so we're going to talk again about a topic we've talked about regularly on this channel, and that is weapon manipulations for law enforcement roadside. You know, and in this is a video going viral where the female police officer shoots a law-abiding citizen with his own firearm. And so when it really comes down to it, okay, and again, I don't hold water for anybody. This was 100% preventable. What happened here was negligence, and the law enforcement officer completely lied to that citizen when he said that he was doing this for his safety and the officer's safety, right? So obviously this was not done for his safety, because if it was done for his safety, he wouldn't have gotten shot. So again, it's just complete negligence. I don't know these officers. I don't know them personally. I don't know who they are. I don't know their conduct. I don't know their character. But this was completely preventable. This was completely negligent, and I really hope the police department definitely does better in training their individuals. And so that's what's disturbing, because what I'm going to go ahead and do for you guys, I'm going to just give you a real look. So I teach many courses. I teach a firearms course. I teach a constitutional law course. I teach a patrol tactics course, and this comes directly from my courses, right? My patrol tactics course, my firearms course, this is something that I teach law enforcement, right? So, case law for basic patrol, we're talking about disarming law-abiding citizens. If you can do it, why you should do it. So this whole scenario is something that I've been talking about for years. I've included this in my training for years. So what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to give you a snippet. So you're going to see actual screenshots from my curriculum, and we're going to talk about this like I would be consulting a police department or training a police department. And so we're going to go into the legalities of things, and then we're just going to go into the common sense things. So we're going to have a very adult conversation about this, because I understand when we talk about constitutional laws, right? When we talk about your Second Amendment, your right to bear arms, this can be kind of a very hotly contestable item. It shouldn't be. The Constitution is very clear, but you have people on both sides, right? And so my job is just to give you the reality of the situation and talk about this like an adult. And so I'm going to give you the case law. We're going to talk about this like adults, and we're going to go through all the various nuances of why it's important to train this. Again, the fact that this isn't trained at the police academies blows my mind. The fact that this isn't trained in the FTO process blows my mind. Like I haven't seen one FTO manual that talks about this. And with the gun culture we have in the United States of America, I don't know how you don't. So without further ado, let's get started. So our first question, can police disarm a citizen who is lawfully carrying a firearm? Well, the answer is, in short, yes. An officer who has reasonable suspicion to stop a suspect may conduct a limited search for weapons if the officer reasonably believes that the defendant may be armed and dangerous. That's Terry v. Ohio. So let's talk about what armed and dangerous means, because some people don't believe that somebody who's lawfully carrying a firearm is dangerous, right? Well, we have court case precedents that says otherwise. Being dangerous automatically follows being armed, for the risk of danger is created simply because the person who is forcefully stopped is armed. Whether the person lawfully carries the firearm is inconsequential because the danger justifying a protective frisk arises from the combination of forced police encounter and the presence of a weapon, not from any illegality of the weapon's possession. Lastly, legally carried weapons are just as dangerous as illegally carried weapons. And so the case law on that's going to be, again, Terry v. Ohio, 1968, United States v. Robinson, 2017, and Walker versus Lovejoy, 2019. And so why is this important? Well, let's have a frank conversation. Let's just have a very honest conversation, because this is the same conversation that I have with law enforcement professionals, and I believe you as everyday citizens are just as much adults, and we can have this adult conversation. Let's be very honest, right? Because I'm going to be honest with you, so you should be honest with me. Being dangerous automatically follows being armed, for the risk of danger is created simply because the person who is forcefully stopped is armed. Well, in this case, that 100% plays out, right? The firearm is dangerous. Again, it's inconsequential whether the person is carrying legally or illegally. A legally carried firearm is just as dangerous as an illegally carried firearm. And so we see this in this scenario. The officer who shot the citizen accidentally, she was lawfully carrying. The citizen was lawfully carrying. Again, you can lawfully carry and you can have a negligent discharge, and that negligent discharge is dangerous. Now let's make this even more basic. Why do we have the Second Amendment? Why did the forefathers put the Second Amendment in the Constitution? And this is where all of a sudden all these gun advocates want to get real quiet for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why all these, God-fearing Second Amendment people get really quiet when you talk about this in public. It's always blown my mind, and maybe it's because I've only been professionally in the military, now in law enforcement. So for me, I guess there's that bias there, but it's very clear. And for those of you that are extremely 2A, feel free to disagree with me, right? Feel free to disagree with me here. But the Second Amendment is to prevent tyranny. So in order to prevent tyranny, you need a dangerous weapon. The founding fathers were not idiots. In order to defend the citizenry against tyranny, we need to have the Second Amendment, because the Second Amendment is inherently dangerous. How do you quell evil, tyranny? You have to do it with something dangerous. You're not doing it with roses, right? And for some reason, this is like the big, we can't talk about this, right? I don't understand it. Maybe you guys in the comment section can help me. Because if you go back through my videos, there's plenty of people that threaten me with the Second Amendment, right? People will make veiled threats like, well, people are going to use their 2A soon if cops don't change and this and that. So it's one of those things that I guess is just taboo. But I don't hold water for anybody. So let's call a spade a spade. A legally carried firearm is dangerous because the founding fathers knew it was dangerous. That's why they wanted the citizenry to carry it. And we know from the damage it can cause that it's dangerous, right? And I mean, again, looking at this from as much nuance as possible, let's even look further. Are firearms categorically dangerous? As you can see on the on your screen there, yes, the United States Supreme Court has held that an unloaded pistol was considered a dangerous weapon for 3 following independently sufficient reasons. 3. A gun is an article that can typically and characteristically be dangerous. The use for which and in which it's manufactured and sold is a dangerous one. And the law reasonably may presume that such an article is always dangerous, even though it may be not armed at a particular time or place. Again, we're talking about an unloaded pistol here. The Supreme Court says an unloaded pistol is categorically dangerous. Number 2, a gun instills fear in the average citizen. As a consequence, it creates an immediate danger that a violent response will ensue, and a gun can cause harm when used as a bludgeoning device. That's McLaughlin versus the United States in 1986. So we know emphatically, without equivocation, that a firearm is dangerous. An unloaded firearm is dangerous. Now let's look at Robinson real quick. United States v. Robinson again. This is also particularly important because in this, an RP called in, anonymous tip called in that a black man was concealed carrying a loaded gun at a 7-Eleven parking lot, right? And so again, long story short with this, the reason why it's important is because if you disarm somebody, right, and they're lawfully carrying, what can you expect them to do as soon as the encounter is over? You can expect them to put the firearm back on their person and continue on with their business. You can expect that somebody may see that. And if somebody sees that, you can expect them to call you, which means you're causing more work for yourself, right? So let's talk, now that we got the case law out of the way, and now that we've established that firearms are dangerous, and they're purpose-driven to be dangerous. Again, unless I'm going to imagine I'm going to find somebody in the comment section that is a big, strong Second Amendment supporter that's going to try to articulate that the Founding Fathers wanted us to protect ourselves against tyranny using an undangerous item. Good luck with that. But hey, that person may be out there. So again, let's talk about weapon manipulation considerations. As a law enforcement officer, I know a firearm is dangerous, right? CNN tells me a firearm is dangerous. The military tells me the firearm is dangerous. My founding fathers tell me a firearm is dangerous. Every law enforcement military instructor has told me firearms are dangerous. I know based on my training experience that firearms are dangerous. Deer during deer season say that guns are dangerous, right? We know they're dangerous. So what are the safety benefits? Number 1, what are the safety benefits of taking that firearm away from that citizen, especially if it's in a holster, right? So if a lawful, law-abiding citizen is carrying a firearm, what benefit am I getting from removing that firearm from the protection of that holster? And again, there are reasons to take guns off people. I have done it many times, especially when you have to arrest them, right? So I'm not saying there isn't a reason to take a firearm off somebody, but what are the risk-benefit analysis? If I have to arrest them, well, yeah, that's the risk. Like, I have to arrest a felon in possession of a firearm. He has a warrant or whatever. I have to make an arrest for whatever reason. Yeah, the firearm is going to have to come off. But if we're not in that situation, and I'm trying to understand in this situation why the officer thought there was a purpose to take the firearm off a law-abiding citizen for a traffic infraction, I don't know. Now, can he because it's a forced encounter? Yes. But what are you getting? What's the cost-benefit analysis? 2, the owner's attitude and behavior. If you have a law-abiding citizen that's already starting to be like, hey, dude, why are you doing this for? Well, that's an element. And that's important because in this case, that law-abiding citizen 110% complied with every officer instruction. He did not seem like he had an attitude or was upset at all. He was 100% going with the officer's command. So even the best case scenario, during the daytime, you have a police officer that's requesting the citizen become disarmed. The citizen 100% complies with all instructions without hesitation, without furtive movements, nothing, and he still gets shot by his own gun. Are you familiar with the firearm, right? This female doesn't look like she apparently is familiar with any firearms because, as you know, from the cardinal safety rules, keep your finger off the trigger until ready to fire. So every rule was broken up to the... I mean, if you take a firearm out of a holster and you don't press the trigger, the chances of that firearm going off are slim to none. So all of these bad policy, all this bad policy, all these bad safety led to this person getting shot. So again, how familiar are you with a firearm? If you're not very familiar with firearms, even if you're a cop, you shouldn't be playing with them. You shouldn't be taking them out of holsters. Again, I'm just saying. How are you going to get the firearm back? That's another consideration. What were they planning on doing with that firearm? Where were they planning on putting it? Do they know the condition of that firearm? Obviously, this firearm had one in the chamber, right? As it probably should. That's how most people carry. That's how I carry. So you don't know the condition of the firearm. If you're not familiar with the firearm, right? All these different things are leading to a bad result. So even if you do successfully take the weapon out of the holster, where are you going to put it? How will you give the firearm back? Are you going to say, hey, here you go, and hand it to him? Or are you going to have him exit out of the vehicle again and try to put it back in the holster? Are you going to tell him to pop the trunk, put it in the back of the trunk, shut it, and be like, deal with it later? Number 5, how will the owner put it back on? You can't prohibit a law-abiding citizen from not carrying his firearm. So what's the game plan there? Are you going to allow him to put it back on? Are you going to say, no, I'm going to go this way, and you're going to go that way, and further down the road or whatever, go ahead and put it on, just wait till I leave or whatever? Again, now we're in the United States v. Robinson situation again, right? Now we're right back to square one. Number 6, are you making more work for yourself? I think you are. Again, if you are not worried about the safety situation here, like there's always a reason, right? There's 1,000 reasons, but it's very clear in this situation, in my personal belief, if there's no reason to disarm him, right? If you're not going to make an arrest, if the whole plan of this situation is to write that person a citation or a summons to appear, and there is going to be no further action taken, or there's no other further investigation process that may lead to arrest, I really don't understand why you would take the firearm off in the first place. My honest opinion, I really don't. Because if you don't have the authority to seize the weapon, you have to give the weapon back. So why are we taking the weapon and putting the weapon in play and out of play? That's my honest question. That's something that I always implore law enforcement. If you're not going to make an arrest and you're not going to be able to legally seize that item, why are we putting the item back in play? Why? Honest question. Why are we putting it back in play for? We're putting it in play, out of play, in play again. Why are we doing that? And number 7, is there a holster? If there's a holster and it's holstered, again, why are we putting that weapon in play, out of play? Why are we making more risk? Because the risk for damage and danger and something dangerous and lethal happening significantly increases when you take that weapon out of the holster. Again, this is a perfect example of that. So it goes down to just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? And so again, and I get it. This is, a lot of people are not going to like what I have to say, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, firearms are dangerous. They're intentionally dangerous. Our forefathers wanted them to be dangerous. We respect them because they're dangerous. We're careful around them because they're dangerous. We don't let our kids run around with them because they are dangerous. We use them to defend ourselves because they are dangerous. So, since they are dangerous, especially as law enforcement, we need to treat them as such, and we need to make sure that our contacts with law-abiding citizens, especially, are done in a careful manner that respects the weapon and respects, most importantly, the constitutional rights of our peers, of our citizens, of those that we are supposed to protect. And so, again, this is, like I said, this is something we go over in our course. This is just a quick snippet of the things we talk about. We do some scenarios, we do some live scenarios. I really hit this hard, but this is just the basics, right? So this is just the basics introduction, very beginning introduction, just a small peek of what I train and what I instruct and the why. And again, the why matters because the case law matters. Understanding that a firearm is dangerous matters. Understanding the constitutional rights aspect and constitutional law aspect of it matters. And it's something I take very seriously because, I mean, I'm glad that person, I'm glad he didn't die, but that's going to change and alter, the course of his life. And so, weapons and weapon manipulation is very important. And again, I am not saying there's not reasons to take firearms off people. As somebody who has made many arrests with people with firearms, as somebody who's taken firearms off people, I understand that there are always going to be situations where you need to, but by and large, I don't do it. I don't advocate for it. Again, for situations like this. Again, it is firearms are dangerous. We need to treat them with respect, and most importantly, we need to treat our citizenry with respect. And so, again, if there's no reason to make undue risk, let's not make undue risk. I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys liked the video. If you guys liked the video, please like, share, subscribe. And as always, guys, long live the Republic.